Let's continue with Fahrenheit 451. We're going to create a new table for today because we're going to go over pages 31 through 36 in the digital copy of the text. We're not going over a whole lot today, just these 5 pages. So this shouldn't take a real long time. Let's get started. In the late afternoon, it rained and the entire world was dark gray. He stood in the hall of his house, putting on his badge with the orange salamander burning across it. He stood looking up at the air conditioning vent in the hall for a long time. His wife in the TV parlor paused long enough from reading her script to glance up. "Hey," she said, "the man's thinking." "Yes," he said. "I wanted to talk to you." He paused. "You took all the pills in your bottle last night." "Oh, I wouldn't do that," she said, surprised. The bottle was empty. "I wouldn't do a thing like that. Why would I do a thing like that?" she said. "Maybe you took 2 pills and forgot and took 2 more and forgot again and took 2 more and were so dopey you kept right on until you had 30 or 40 of them in you." "Heck," she said. "What would I want to go and do a silly thing like that for?" "I don't know," he said. She was obviously waiting for him to go. "I didn't do that," she said. "Never in a billion years." Back in our notes and our key events, we should put this down, that Mildred does not remember taking her pills, refuses to believe Guy. "Well, that's what the lady says." She turned back to her script. "What's on this afternoon?" he asked again, tiredly. She didn't look up from the script again. "Well, this play comes on the wall-to-wall circuit in 10 minutes. They mailed me my part this morning. I sent in some box tops. They write the script with one part missing. It's a new idea. The homemaker, that's me, is the missing part. When it comes time for the missing line, they all look at me out of all 3 walls and I say the lines. Here, for instance, the man says, 'What do you think of this whole idea, Helen?' And he looks at me sitting here at center stage, see? And I say, she paused and ran her finger under a line on the script. 'I think that's fine.' And then they go on with the play until he says, 'Do you agree to that, Helen?' And I say, 'I sure do. Isn't that fun, Guy?' He stood in the hall looking at her. 'It's sure fun,' she said. 'What's the play about?' 'Well, I just told you. There are these people named Bob and Ruth and Helen.' 'Oh. Well, it's really fun. It'll be even more fun when we can afford to have the 4th wall installed. How long until you figure before we save up and get the 4th wall torn out and the 4th wall TV put in? It's only $2,000. That's 1/3 of my yearly pay.' That also tells you a little bit about what Ray Bradbury thought the future would like if he believed that we would be making $6,000 a year in the future instead of, 30,000, 40,000 and up. 'Well, it's only $2,000, she replied. "And I should think you'd consider me sometimes. If we had our 4th wall, why, it'd be just like this room wasn't ours at all, but all kinds of exotic people's rooms. We could do without a few things. We're already doing without a few things to pay for the 3rd wall. It was put in only 2 months ago, remember?' Is that all it was?" She sat looking at him for a moment. "Well, goodbye, dear." Let's put this into our notes. And Mildred wants a new wall. Guy says it's too expensive. And let's add in why that's important. She doesn't remember getting the 3rd wall. "Goodbye," he said. He stopped and turned around. "Does it have a happy ending?" "Well, I haven't read that far." He walked over, read the last page, nodded, folded the script, and handed it back to her. He walked out of the house and into the rain. The rain was thinning away, and the girl was walking in the center of the sidewalk with her head up and the few drops falling on her face. She smiled when she saw Montague. "Hello." He said hello and then said, "What are you up to now?" "Well, I'm still crazy. The rain feels good. I love to walk in it." "I don't think I'd like that," he said. "You might if you tried." "Never have." She licked her lips. "Rain even tastes good." "What do you do, go around trying everything once?" he asked. "Sometimes twice." She looked at something in her hand. "What have you got there?" he said. "I guess it's the last of the dandelions this year. I didn't think I'd find one on the lawn this late. Have you ever heard of rubbing it under your chin? Look." She touched her chin with a flower, laughing. "Why?" "If it rubs off, it means I'm in love. Has it?" He could hardly do anything else but look. "Well," she said, "you're yellow under there. Fine. Let's try you now." "It won't work for me." Interesting. They're playing kind of a simple game here. But it brings up probably a deeper question. Why does Guy think that the dandelion won't work? Here. Before he could move, she'd put the dandelion under his chin. He drew back and she laughed. "Hold still!" He peered under his chin and frowned. "Well?" he said. "What a shame," she said. "You're not in love with anyone." "Yes, I am." "It doesn't show." "I am very much in love." He tried to conjure up a face to fit the words, but there was no face. "I am." "Oh, please don't look that way." "It's the dandelion," he said. "You've used it all up on yourself. That's why it won't work for me." "Of course. That must be it." "Oh, now I've upset you. I can see I have. I'm sorry. I really am." She touched his elbow. "No, no," he said quickly. "I'm all right. I've got to be going. So say you forgive me. I don't want you angry with me." "I'm not angry. Upset, yes. I've got to go see my psychiatrist now. They make me go. I make up things to say. I don't know what he thinks of me. He says I'm a regular onion. I keep him busy peeling away the layers." "I'm inclined to believe you need the psychiatrist," said Montague. "Oh, you don't mean that." He took a breath and let it out and said at last, "No, I don't mean that. The psychiatrist wants to know why I go out and hike around in the forest and watch the birds and collect butterflies. I'll show you my collection someday." I love that you can definitely tell the age that this was written on by the way that they treat psychology and mental health. You can see this even if you watch TV shows from the 90s, the idea that mental health and psychologists or psychiatrists were kind of a joke and only for crazy people. Good. They want to know what I do with all my time. I tell them that sometimes I just sit and think, but I won't tell them what. I've got them running, and sometimes I tell them I like to put my head back like this and let the rain fall in my mouth. It tastes just like wine. Have you ever tried it? No, You have forgiven me, haven't you? Yes. He thought about it. Yes, I have. God knows why. You're peculiar, you're aggravating, and yet you're easy to forgive. You say you're 17? Well, next month. How odd. How strange. And my wife, 30, and yet you seem so much older at times. I can't get over it. You're peculiar yourself, Mr. Montague. Sometimes I even forget you're a fireman. Now, may I make you angry again? Go ahead. How did it start? How did you get into it? How did you pick your work, and how did you happen to think to take the job you have? You're not like the others. I've seen a few. I know. When I talk, you look at me. When I said something about the moon, you looked at the moon last night. The others would never do that. The others would walk off and leave me thinking or threaten me. No one else has time anymore for anyone else. You're one of the few who puts up with me. That's why I think it's so strange you're a fireman. It just doesn't seem right for you somehow. He felt his body divide itself into a hotness and a coldness, a softness and a hardness, a trembling and a not trembling, the two halves grinding one upon the other. I want to add this into our notes because it was mentioned yesterday when the jets were flying overhead. Montauk was split in half. And everything about this story seems to be about duality. In fact, let's add that in here to our vocabulary. Duality, the quality or condition of being in dual, which is true, but that doesn't really answer it. So let's look at the second definition. Instance of opposition or contrast between two concepts or aspects of something, a dualism. That one's probably more accurate. You have these two concepts that are opposing, hot and cold, soft and hard, this duality. So let's add that in here. Add that in. What does the duality that Guy is experiencing represent? We've been talking a lot about the idea behind ignorance and curiosity as one of those dualities. Is that all there is here, or is there more to it? How deep does this story go? A trembling and a not trembling, the two halves grinding one upon the other. You'd better run on to your appointment, he said. And she ran off and left him standing there in the rain. Only after a long time did he move. And then, very slowly as he walked, he tilted his head back in the rain for just a few moments and opened his mouth. Let's ask this question here. What do we see at the end of the section? And add this. Guy runs into Clarice. Clarice goes to her psychiatrist. Guy goes to work. Okay, so those are all of our notes for this section. We are done here for today, and we will pick this up next time with even more.